Premise is founded under the notion that death must be mastered and manipulated. Death has become something that must be resisted at all costs. Smith and Whitney and 10. Modern medicine is born as mastery over death. The case can never lie to the institution of medicine entirely because of medicine and its biomedical model for the machinery's approach to death become medicalized, and after death becomes defined as the condition which must be treated, controlled by medicine takes place in the institutional setting. Medicine and technology increases. We consider the ability to extend life to the dying. Death can be resisted through artificial means. The about dead body can drive back to life. Technological advances created within it means to interfere that never before existed. Death emerges the failure to conceive the hand over the body. Medicine, death, and is no longer understood as a natural part of life, but something that must be resisted and to be upon it continue to be regulated, controlled, managed in personal ways. The medical profession shaped the guide to the controls death across the boundary of the doctor-patient relationship. This space limits the acknowledgement of the existential issues relating to death and limiting the conceptualization of death as a natural event that could be celebrated. And the notion that we must resist death at all costs is the root cause of all exclusionary dichotomies. The criterion for human is based on difference in which oppose death. The extradition and inanimate nature, animals, and races are the rationality of a culture that dissociates life and death. Boudreaux in 76. There is no criterion of human, the only difference in which led to the opposed death, the undifferentiated concept of the human gives right to discrimination due to the extent of the progress we have become racist and hold the rationality of the culture which the extradition of the animate nature, animals inferior them to the human is the best of society, them to the superior to the born, those with subnormal IQs, perverts, the transsexual intellectuals, and more for folklore terror. On the basis of the race definition of a normal human, all these categories will excel in the finally universal way where the normal or the will of views of the design of the human at the very core of the rationality of our culture is an exclusion that precedes every out of the serving model, the exclusion of the dead and the death. And our whole culture is one of these associate life, dissociate life and death, the elimination of death, mankind in every direction for learners and for science, truth, and economic, no reviews, no culture to the distinction of opposition, life and death, the end of the field, the equivalent of the production of death, it becomes the object of first desire and between the separation of life and death, the imaginary real death for own, it can be redeemed to the individual work of the death, and over himself to the start of his own life. And Western medicine exploitation of nature is used to wage war against death. Plants are no longer valued. Their properties are isolated and extracted. This mentality has created medical casualties originating on both human and non-human bodies. Kill in 89. The modern medical bodies conceive of a machine that can perform the laws of cause and effect of diseases and have a single cause of the agent needed to root out to include with chemical weapons forced on nature. The concept of the one disease, one core to the alien and the holistic view. Drugs are the weapon and point to the water and against disease, rid of the interest, the healing power of the planes. The Western medicine first respond with the unassaultable of its own. Western medicine has declared war against the body and all natural worlds unable to trust the healing power of nature. Western medicine prefers to penetrate nature in order to produce cures out of its own. Plants are no longer valued. The most powerful properties of plants are isolated, extracted, and synthesized into drug natures. Seen as only useful in order to transform our men's rational mind. The body becomes a decentral in which war against disease terminology of warfare permeates the modern medical world. We hear of war and cancer, robotic cells with drugs are alleged and described as cancer's growth. The warfare mentality of Western medicine and medical country regimes on the world causing more death each year. And status quo is obsessed with conquering death. Modern medicine has become medicalized. Patients experience a lonely death in public institutions. Their deathbed is surrounded by strangers and technology. Ziegler at 9. Advances in medicine and technology led to changes in the timing and location of death. Patients dying longer, die alone in an institution and among strangers. Modern medicine has become obsessed with the ability to extend life to the dying. The medical community death revision to the failure of something to be avoided at all costs. And to become a medicalized patient began to question whether the medicine's ability to really the patient's best interest of physician-assisted suicide or evidence the desire to promote the medicalized death. And the notion that life must be held at all costs is forced us into ontological slavery, while those who are free to gamble with occupy the position of the master. Baudrillard 2. Respect for human life, we find it unavailable to others. We have made the fantastic value of the human, the universal humanist order. We have supposed to death, the gamble to the slave, to derive death, we own to the doom of survival and labor, sheltered to the death, to overprotected, occupy exactly the position of the slave. For those whose death on their own disposal or do not the survival of the exclusion aim or the symbolic occupy the position of the master. Contingent 2, the Western position. The Western medical model is authoritarian and marginalizes traditional health practices by assuming ratification of biomedical approaches. Bonder, Martin, and Miracle 2. The Western medical model is authoritarian with assuming the biomedical approaches work for everyone. The model cast out under the traditional health substance to generic with novel things and assumes everyone in this base the biomedical approaches and the providers of self-care alternatives are problematic. And Western institutions have empowered the physician. Physicians occupy the position as the healer in our society. Communication across cultural boundaries is impeded. A mediocentrism that ignores alternative forms of medicine. Gains on Han, 85. The Western position to the most powerful and legitimate healer in our society, the way in the smaller society, the traditional healing unconscious recognizing the effect of the institution that inferior to the mediocentrism chamber to the rigid biomedical framework, the inferior to the Western beliefs and values of the physician and the healer is not limited to the Western society, the physician role in spreading all corners of the world, seeking help for the medical body for the alternative, the healer is discouraged by position, the man over nature thrust is central to the ethos of the biomedicine in the United States, patient knowledge is influenced to the upper the presentation of the biomedical faculty, the biomedical healer, and the patient are locked in the clinical situation where the style of communication impeded, communication across cultural boundaries and apparent with the practice of the style of non-Western folk. And the physician's mastery of Western knowledge is used to distinguish themselves from shamanism and ostracize indigenous medical epistemology. Hendricks in 12. The term shaman came to stand for the humble boy, literate ritual specialist, physician assuming to develop universal medical knowledge. Shamans are associated with particularly indigenous and therefore limited tradition. Shamans became the object of physical denigration and also persecution, government administration, physician grounded their authority and text criticizing for the impure animal sacrifices for the worship of the demonic local spirits. Martin and I advocate for alternative medical practices in regard to physician-assisted suicide. Contention 3, dancing with death. Simply having the option of physician-assisted suicide can demedicalize the dying process and also relationship to death, opening up a discussion for alternative practices. Quadrant 11. The option to request physician-assisted suicide in the face of terminal illness can avoid prolonging of painful death. Modernists and can become possessed with the ability to extend the lives of the dying. Death trace and enemy deficiency to defeat by any means necessary. Dying process becoming excessively medicalized. The dying patient is covered alive, similar to celebrate the medical tribe. This dying process takes on the role of the NBBS, can help it end the agony to put an end to the further meaningless prolongation of death, reversing the trend of the medicalized dying. FPS offers a solution to rectify a situation. The option for PS can improve one's dying process, utilizing life-sustaining, enhancing equipment, dying, prolonged death, giving more to the physical distress and the worst quality of death. The medicalized setting does not always prove to be beneficial and can even intensify deteriorating patients' dying process. The low said those who let nature take its course to the dying more natural death would suffer less as well. The PS not only serves as an instrument to demedicalize the way we die, but also helps to prevent the understanding of medical technology that may result in unpleasant dying process. And near-death experiences and shamanistic ceremonies that alter self-consciousness, which naturally leads to death awareness and behavioral changes. We no longer face death, but dance with death. We realize the inevitability of death and gain appreciation for the experience of life. Calabrese 13. The ceremony is symbolic of death and rebirth, the experience of being born again. Death and rebirth experience occurs when the emotional arousal and stress overwhelmed the mind forces the psyche's organization collapses. This process experience rebirth coincides with the reorganization after the disruption of the thought patterns and self-image. Death awareness is not that is a natural sequel to self-awareness. The contemplation over the life made allow the realization of death and the renewed appreciation for the experience of life. We realize we have to die. It helps us to enjoy happier experiences. Confrontation with death can bring about behavioral change. Novel conceptions of healing refers less to the physical symptoms and acceptance of one's life. The ability of peyote to make the ritual and near-death experience seems to be the reason for why the use of peyote in Native American church. The contemplation of the defining nature of life combined with the fear of the ultimate state of consciousness the one is experiencing may be fatal. And modern medicine has defined death as a punctual event. The subject is forced into a myth of anticipation. In reality, we're always impelled into a cycle that makes no distinction between life and death. Baudrillard 76. The irreversibility of biological death is a fact in science specific to our culture. Every other culture said death begins before death, that life goes on after life. The possibility to distinguish life from death. It's hard to see the radical determinacy of life and death. The modern idea of death control of the representation that the machine under the function of the machine neither works or does not. This biological machine neither is dead or alive. Neither life nor death can any longer be assigned to the given end. There's no punctuality, there's no possibility of definition of death. Life after death, the illusion of the subject, the same about biological metaphysics. Death not have been but a myth experience of the anticipation. The subject needs a myth to attend. In reality, the subject never really there, like the face, the hands on the chair, and even no doubt is always already something trapped in the senseless distribution into the cycle of meld and death. The blinder soul, not mentioned anymore to the Idaho principles, passing out of the molds, discipline of science in the Middle Ages. Those who practice the discourse of the mind, soul, closer to the body, science of the biological sciences, passed over entirely over to the non-body. And our repulsion to death is continuously rooted in the ego, which clings to the illusion of continuing, but our bodies are perpetually dying. Accepting that allows us to disrupt our fear of death. Chopra 6. What part of the people are losing the body? This seems like a terrible interruption to the total personal extinction limit of the ego to the ego. Ego craves continuing to the other person you are. Second, going cling to illusion to continue to give it up. You will die unto death. You will realize that you've been discontinuous all along. Comes to the diving into the ocean of possibility. Total illusion because you are already dead. Memory to the relics of time past. Life is unknown. It has rendered as you are conceived with your thoughts, desired, experience. The total line between life and death. You convey road to the surrender, erasing the line entirely. You can see the total cycle of death. And then life and death you have surrendered. The most powerful tool against materialism. Get up to the boundaries and plunges directly into existence. And shamans have used hallucinogenic plants to alter an individual consciousness state in order to dissolve the ego and allow confrontation with death. 797. Pre-industrial culture that used hallucinogenic plants, death, rebirth experience. This would doubtlessly offer to the experience of shamanic spiritual opening into transcendental nature, the human consciousness. Hallucinogenic news, death, rebirth experience. Shamans ingest plants and supervise its use through hallucinogenic plants, including peyote, the roots, the changes, and dogma and receptions, similar to the experience, dreams, and religious exaltation.
So, your advocacy statement, as you call it, says that, and I'm going to give me a sec to pull up the actual one itself. Martin and I advocate for alternative medical practices in regard to physician-assisted suicide. What does you two advocating for these alternative medicine practices do?
It's putting the judge in a position to either affirm the idea that we should have a step away from Western medicine, which imbues us with this fear of death.
Yeah, let's use that rhetoric. What does the judge affirming this idea of a step away from modern medicine do?
It's an affirmation that we should
we
should start questioning Western medicine.
Why should the judge specifically affirm this?
because this is an educational setting and we can learn about the different impacts of what type of epistemological framings we have.
So then what does like voting F actually do then, I guess?
It's an affirmation of the idea that this is a good idea. Like,
affirmation of the idea that this
allowing
is
us to have a discussion that shifts away from Western medical institutions, right? Like this idea that we can have an alternative medicine is a shift away from the status quo, which we say harms people
So you call it a
because of
shift away from-
technology.
So you're claiming a shift away from this status quo idea.
A shift away from Western
Okay,
medical
cool.
institutions.
So let's talk about your first, so is death something that is, so do you take like stance, is death good or bad, I guess?
Death is something that in the status quo is seen as a punctual event that occurs once and is forever and permanent. We say that there's different relationships to death in other cultures that need to be perceived and need to be understood.
Sure. But like, I guess the question I'm trying to get at is, can there be times where, like, if someone dies, is that something that they should like embrace?
Yeah.
Always? In every
So-
circumstance?
I mean, if death is unavoidable, so
Also, death.
we're not advocating that people kill themselves. We're saying that if you want to, you should have the option.
Also, death is not something that just occurs once. Like I said,
Right.
Okay,
they
sure.
may be
Let's just
they
like, I'm gonna ask the pure question of like solvency. Where you have evidence that talks about physician-assisted suicide along with non-Western like medical practices being like
Seventh 97 says that the hallucinogenic plants that shamans have used is able to induce a physician-assisted suicide experience. The physician becomes the shaman and the suicide becomes the rebirth through this spiritual experience. Also, our Quar and 11 evidence is actually really good on this question, specifically to how we can break away from the Western notions of physician-assisted suicide.
Yeah. Your car evidence, I guess it mentions like how like current physician-assisted suicide is bad, but where does it make a solvency claim as to like how your alternative is good?
I'll sort